Right, ladies and gentlemen, it's a Monday, and you know what that means. A lot of news happened over the weekend. Also, we've got box office numbers. We've got possibly a Western resurgence happening, which, all right, yes, please. And then a lot of other things just kind of brewing that I want to touch on. So, buckle up. We're going to get straight to business. All right, guys. So, no need to waste any time. As usual, for the Monday thing, we're going to talk about the box office a little bit. So, right now, it is looking like Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes is doing all right. It made 58 million. Now, depending on where you were looking and if you were looking at an outlet connected to Disney, depends on what you were actually going to see as far as the numbers on this. Now, one thing we like to do, I look at Deadline in some of these places, but we really like to come and check out Geeks and Gamers because Odin really loves numbers. And he does these articles, friend of the show and of Criticless in general. And he has given us a pretty good breakdown here on what Planet of the Apes has done. And right now, it is looking like it has made around $56.5 million domestically. Now, if you come over here to Deadline, they're predicting it closer to around 58. So I don't know how these guys break down their numbers. I'm sure if you watch Odin regularly, he spells it all out. He really loves numbers a lot more than me. I don't number. I don't do that. So I'm just here to kind of give you a breakdown of what happened over the weekend. So Planet of the Apes. Is it doing good? It's doing all right. Is it doing amazing? Not exactly, because movie theater numbers just aren't what they used to be. We've been talking about this quite a bit last week as well. And so looking at this week, it's still not absolute gangbusters, but it's not bad. This is not a bad showing for this movie. Now, Odin is projecting that this was around $160 million to make. And then you're going to have your budget for all of the advertising and marketing, which is going to really kind of jack those numbers up. So to break even, it looks like they might need to make a healthy chunk of cash going forward. So now, and this is only the domestic numbers, and that tends to be what Odin covers the most of. So what we need to look at going forward is the worldwide numbers, and if they are going to make back enough to basically pay for what this has cost, which was 160 million. And so, I mean, you know, it is quite possible. I think worldwide they definitely will, because obviously we are at a higher number than the projected, at 58 million where Deadline put it, or where Odin put it at the slightly lower number, which they kind of bury the lead here on Deadline further down the article as far as how everybody else is doing. Now, the other big thing to point out is that Fall Guy is not doing great on week 2. It has had a 51% drop. So with how well Planet of the Apes did, I think that it was just pushing out a lot of that audience, because Fall Guy was mostly an action audience. And then Challengers, which shouldn't really be doing good at this point after 3 weeks as an indie, movie about edging, it's just going to drop. So that's down 38%. Taro actually made their money back, even though it's a 47% drop, because they made it for so cheap. And somehow Godzilla vs. Kong, or Cross Kong, is still in theaters. But that's basically where we're looking for this weekend. I am happy with Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes and how well it is doing. If you take a look on Criticless, it is sitting at a 71% by 24 people. It's at a rad. Right in the middle is exactly where I was predicting that it would be, in that rad territory. And I think it will stay there as the reviews keep coming in for this, because people are overall liking it. Now, people are kind of surprised because it's not quite a return to form. This is more of an action adventure movie, as to where the rest of the franchise has been a little bit more of a socio-political thriller / some action in there. But the other films are just very different from what is being done in this movie, and it might signal a shift for the rest of the franchise going forward, because they are planning on doing more movies. But I don't want to spend too long on the box office. What I want to move on to next is the main topic here, which is that I think that Westerns are making a mother freaking comeback. It looks like these industry vets are coming out of the woodwork, and they're just ready to bring Westerns back. Why? Probably because superhero movies are what replaced the Western film. Superhero movies have been just a dime a dozen, one after another, for however many 10, 15 plus years now. And, everybody was like, they're not showing any signs of slowing down. And then after the past couple of years, they are showing signs of slowing down. Does that mean that the superhero franchise can't be saved? No, I don't think so. But does it mean that it's going to be at the level of glory that it's been at for the past 10 years or so? I do not think that that's the case. But that brings us to Westerns, because we're talking about my two favorite genres here. I literally have a Western themed tattoo on one arm, and then on my leg, a superhero themed like tattoo. So, I mean, you know, I'm happy either way. So let's bring back the Western. So the bit of news here is that Ed Harris is to direct Bill Murray, Ogun Teague, and Nick Nolte in a crime thriller called The Plowman. Now, they're kind of not fully labeling this as a Western. It's almost more of like a noir Western, which it sounds like they're putting it in the category of. Now, the interesting thing to note here as well is that this movie has Owen Teague in it. He was actually the lead in Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes, playing the character of Noah, if I remember correctly. Yes, he was playing Noah in Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes. So clearly Hollywood is gravitating towards this kid. I said he did a really good job in that movie, and he's going to be back in this. So if you didn't notice what I said there, it was that Ed Harris is directing this. He hasn't directed a movie in quite some time and is mostly known for his acting. So this is his third time behind the camera. The last thing he did was a Western called Appaloosa. So now he's back again with another one. This movie called The Plowman. Now, this is based off of a novel that has just it's about 10 years old. So this is a book which could potentially bode well, maybe not, but I don't think that there's necessarily a huge audience behind this. It's not like some gigantic classic or anything, but that doesn't mean anything bad necessarily. And with this cast, it's looking pretty good. So I'm going to scroll down here. So what it says is the film is set in the wilderness of Montana, where a strange friendship develops between a haunted young deputy sheriff and a notorious old murderer. John Glode, who's played by Nolte, is a killer so adept at his job that only now has he been apprehended. Val Malicki, who's played by Teague, is a low man in the Copper County Sheriff's Department. As Val continues his unlucky streak of finding dead bodies, Sheriff Murray puts him on night duty to try to get Glad to reveal his past. Val finds much in common with his prisoner and dangerously seeks counsel for him. So this is really interesting. I mean, we have wilderness in Montana. This is going to have a westerny vibe to it. I'm really excited between, us getting Bill Murray as this old sheriff and, Nick Nolte as this old grizzled murdering criminal, and then this up and coming young actor as this middleman. And it sounds cool. This sounds freaking cool. And it sounds like we're getting back to Westerns. And if you have not been paying attention, part of why I'm saying, are we coming back to it, is that this summer we have a film called Horizon coming out, which is, they're calling this Chapter 1, Horizon, an American Saga. And this is Kevin Costner coming off of Yellowstone, which is huge. We have country music right now, which is really big. We have Western culture in general just kind of starting to slowly grow. And I think with the Yellowstone buzz and him making this Horizon movie, I mean, they're clearly pretty confident in it. This is coming out June 28th. So we're not far away from this, and it's going to be dropping. And the cast is absolutely stacked for this movie. I mean, you can look at it on your own time, but I mean, really, there's a lot of folks in this. So, I mean, between this new movie being made from Ed Harris with The Plowman and then Horizon coming out this summer, I would not be surprised if we get more announcements of more Western movies. And I am here to say, let's freaking get it. I want some more Western movies. So I'm going to definitely be watching out for over the next year or so to see if we get this Western boom that I'm hoping that we will. And if it replaces the superhero stuff for a little while, so be it. We could probably use that, in all honesty. Now, the next thing I want to talk about is that we are getting a film that is catching a little bit of flack right now, but it is starring Dave Bautista, Jeff Bridges, and Bryan Cranston. Now, they're calling this, in this article, a new monster movie from the Jim Henson Workshop, but they're burying the lead here, because what this actually is a new Beowulf movie. The movie is going to be called Grendel. And this has definitely piqued my interest as well. I was a big fan of Beowulf back in high school. They had us read it, and I was like, this is a pretty rad story. And then right around that time, several years after, we had a Beowulf movie come out. That was a PG-13, a little bit more violent, but this was fairly star-studded. And I think Robert Zemeckis directed this. I know he was tied to it in some degree. But this movie was a little odd because they were going for that hyper-realism, but it was tiptoeing around that uncanny valley thing, but it kind of looked like a hyper realistic Shrek type of art, which is a little odd, but it wasn't a bad movie. I thought it was pretty cool. And yes, it was directed by Robert Zemeckis. So, I mean, it's been quite a while since we've gotten anything Beowulf related. That was back in 2007. So it's been a hot minute. So, but looking at this cast with Dave Bautista and Bryan Cranston, it breaks down to actually already we know who they are going to be starring. So Jeff Bridges is playing Grendel, which is the monster, the creature from Beowulf. So I can't exactly imagine Jeff Bridges in that role, but it could be pretty cool. And then we have Bryan Cranston, who's playing the king in the film. And then we have Dave Bautista, who is going to be playing Beowulf. Now, this story, Grendel, is actually based off of a novel which kind of takes the original poem of Beowulf and repurposes it and makes it more of from the perspective of the monster Grendel. And so it's a totally new take that we haven't really seen on film yet. And with the fact that we are having the Jim Henson workshop attached to this, it means that we're probably going to be getting some practical effects. And as you know, Hollywood has doubled down on, CG, and a lot of people are cooling on it a lot. I mean, unless it's something like the new Planet of the Apes movie where it just looks absolutely phenomenal, and it could. But with Jim Henson workshop being attached, I'm definitely more excited for this than I would have been initially. It would have been more of a let's wait and see. But with that being the case, this could be cool. And we have a decent director attached to it. I'm trying to find him listed here. It's Robert D. Krasowski, and he actually did a movie about the man who killed Bigfoot several years ago. I watched it. It was decent. It got some buzz from the indie scene and wasn't too bad. But so I'm interested to see what he does with this. And from what I can gather, I mean, this is shaping up to be possibly pretty cool. Dave Bautista as Beowulf sounds pretty rad. I'd love to see him wielding a sword and, tearing people up. So we'll hold out, and I don't want to judge yet, as far as the Twitter X crowd goes. They love to get out the pitchforks when anything is a remake, and I'm not that person. Look, if you have a good story to tell, and if you have some solid thoughts behind it, and you are doing something new, then I'm willing to see it. If it sucks, it sucks. But if it's great, then awesome. You give us something cool and interesting and new to watch. So I'm here for it. Now, there were a few other things that I did not mention in the opening. We're probably going to go a little over on time here, but whatever. I can do what I want. I've run the show here. So look, I did want to mention this popped up and it piqued my interest pretty big. And it's that right now it is looking like Shogun might be getting a second season. And this is pretty big because all of the press about this show was that it was a miniseries. We were not getting the second season. There was going to be no season 2 of Shogun. And now they are saying that it is looking like we have a star signing on for a second season and working on a deal. At least it sounds like it's not fully signed and they're trying to figure out the whole deal here. But the character of Toranaga, played by Hiroyuki Sanada, he's signing on for another season. And I'm sure that everybody else who's still alive in the show will come back if he does. And I'm going to be completely honest with you. I love this show. I think it is fantastic, but I was quite disappointed with the final season. Or not the final season, but the final episode. It just fell a little flat for me. I understand what they were trying to do, and they were trying to do it in a way in which, they've run out of their 10 episodes, and it was connected to a book and previous subject matter. And so I get it, but I just wasn't super happy with that last episode, which is fine. And if we're getting a second season, then heck yeah, I'm all about it. So look, if we get another season from Hulu/FX for Shogun, then give it to us. And go make sure to check out Shogun as well on Criticless. I don't have it pulled up right now, but it's doing really well. It's definitely in most excellent territory, if not high most excellent territory, like above 90%, because everybody just really digs this show. It's excellently made, acted. The production value on it is just phenomenal. So I would say check out Shogun if you haven't yet, but just know that there is a little bit of, it's not a fully English speaking show, but that is what it is. Now, Another thing that I wanted to pop in on is that I got notified right before the show by Bookstore Thor, another friend of the show and Criticless, is that he was asking if I had seen this article that came out. And the way he references it is that this movie by the Russo brothers costs almost double what Pacific Rim did. And that is wild. And first off, let me say follow Bookstore Thor on Criticless and on X if you have not yet. He does some excellent work and he's a really good writer. But I'm pulling up the article here that he sent to me. So in this article, basically, they point out that it cost $320 million to produce The Electric State, the new film by the Russo brothers. Now, if you don't know who the Russo brothers is, you definitely do. You just don't know them by name. These are the guys that sent Marvel off, with a bang, and before they then came back with a whimper. So they are who did the Infinity Saga, and they've been doing things since and putting out pretty solid stuff. So these are two very, established directors that are doing good work. And the last thing they did was The Gray Man, if I'm not mistaken. But this thing, I mean, $320 million on a budget, especially for a next Netflix movie that is probably not going to be in theaters, which I think would be a mistake with a budget this big. So maybe Netflix gets smart and releases The Electric State in theaters. Hey, Netflix, if you're listening, freaking just put out a movie in a movie theater, please. And it sounds like this is the exact type of movie that should be put in a movie theater, just with everybody that is attached to it. Now, I was scrolling through here because I had not heard anything about it, but The Electric State is going to be starring Millie Bobby Brown, Chris Pratt, Ke Huy Quan, Giancarlo Esposito, Anthony Mackie, Stanley Tucci, Jason Alexander, Brian Cox, Jenny Slate. Like this, holy crap, what a cast. And it is based on a Simon Stålenhag story, which is he does illustrated novels. Now, if you've not seen any of his work, I'll pull up a little bit here. He just does some really crazy stuff. It's really interesting art. I've had them as backgrounds for my computer many times because he just does interesting things. And he actually had another show created a little while back for Amazon, which I'm blanking on the name of, but it was quite solid as well. So this is based on some really cool subject matter. And listen to this. The Electric State is a coming-of-age tale that mixes sci-fi and Western genres into a retro futuristic past. Hold the phone. Just that right there. I'm on board. I mean, it literally, this is speaking like, was this movie made directly for me? I think it probably was. This sounds excellent. Sci-fi Western, give it to me. It says Brown plays an orphaned teenager who traverses the American West with her robot friend and an eccentric drifter in search of her younger brother. Like, this sounds pretty cool. Now, granted, that description alone, you would not expect for this film to have a budget of 320 million. So I don't even know. This sounds nuts. So, and if you have been watching the trajectory of Hollywood, what has been happening over several years now is that budgets are getting bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. And it's not like an inflationary kind of bigger and bigger. It's just like ballooning costs. And I mean, I would not be surprised right now, along with ballooning costs, we've been getting overlong movies, which are like freaking 3 hours long. And people are just like, what is happening? Now, granted, I'm the type of person, if you give me a 3 hour long movie and it is one of the best things I've ever seen, then freaking great. I don't care. Let it be 2.5, 3 hours. But a lot of people are going to feel that length and have a problem with it. So I hope they're careful with that as well, along with this monstrous budget. So we will see if Netflix handles this properly or if they crap the bed and just end up blowing a whole bunch of money. I mean, this is just a crazy expensive movie, but there's some good people attached to it. So I don't know. We'll see what happens when this comes out. Now, the very last thing that I wanted to mention is for all of you to buckle up. Just go ahead, buckle up, get ready, because X is going to be a crap show tomorrow because they have officially announced that we are getting a teaser trailer for The Rings of Power Season 2. And if you know anything about The Rings of Power, it is that a lot of people really, really hate this show. Like a lot. So I'm really interested to see what happens with this world premiere teaser trailer tomorrow. So just buckle up and be looking out for that to drop. But guys, this has been so much news, more news than any other day that I've done. So, I mean, we're sitting at like 18 minutes already. So I'm definitely going to bail out of here. But make sure, if you have not yet, go on to criticless.com. That's critic and then less. Criticless.com, or just search us in the app stores, download the app on Apple or Android, and come check us out. Obviously, like, subscribe, all the fun stuff with the YouTube channel too, so people can keep seeing the stuff that we are putting out. And this week, we are going to be reviewing on, our review will drop Friday for If, the Imaginary Friends movie, which there is already good buzz coming off of, so I'm excited to see it. Going to take my kids. And we will see how the box office does for this next week, because right now this summer is not getting off to the bang that a lot of people would hope that it would. But guys, this has been a blast and a good Monday, and hopefully I've left myself with a little bit of news to talk about tomorrow. But until then, see you tomorrow.